Hey there, before we jump into this episode, if you're looking to lose body fat and build muscle, which is a body recomposition, we're actually taking on 5 people who are ready to get to that next level through our online fitness coaching program. So make sure to send us a message with the keyword body recomp to our Instagram, which is Colossus Fit, COLOSSUSFIT. We can't wait to help you out, and let's jump into the episode.
Howdy everyone, welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and Most of All Happy podcast. I am your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
And if you're joining us on video today, you can see we are in the Florida house. So we have made it down to the warm weather, which is fantastic. So really happy to be down here and to take advantage of the sun. And also, if you're on video, I just want to say, hey, shout out for watching us on video. We always try to make sure there's extra bonuses and goodies in here. And if you're on video, I want to challenge you to drop a comment down below, because if you're on video, you can see I got my little dog here. If you can comment down below the color of his eye, we'll pick one person for a shout out next week. Well, his eyes, sorry. The color of his eyes, we'll pick one person next week for a little shout out there, which will be pretty fun. But we're going to go ahead and jump into the episode. We want to start off by saying me and Kyla are really going to try to rejuvenate the podcast and really keep the core and the tenets of what makes it so fantastic and so exciting, but also to make sure that we're building on it, we're refreshing it up, we're adding more value, more excitement, more energy continually to this podcast. So we have a lot of big things coming. We're going to start workshopping some things. You might see some new segments. Things might come and go. It might get a little interesting there, but that's what it's all about, keeping it interesting and exciting. We're also exploring different components like seasons or little courses where perhaps we work through different challenges and ideas and how to do it as your coaches and hosts. So there'll be a lot of fun to come there. But of course, I know the quotes are always a big hit, and I love quotes. And I think this is one of my favorite parts of the podcast is really having to think and reflect on a really powerful quote. So I'm going to go ahead and start it with my quote here. So my quote is, "Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live." And this is by Rohn. And I love this quote. I believe I probably used it before, but I just think it's so true because, as I've said before, it's so easy to fixate on like, what do I have the nicest clothes? What's my car like? What's my house like? What hotel am I staying in? Like, we really focus on these external components to our body. But for a lot of people, we're lugging around 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds of unnecessary weight, stress, and the effects that can come from that. You're going to feel more pressure and pain in your knees. Your joints are going to get more swollen. You're going to have less energy and ability to pull yourself up, to jump out of bed, to walk around, to be able to do all these things. You want to be feeling light, strong, nimble, and in control. And to me, I just find it's a really good motivator to say, how can I make my place of being the most comfortable for me, to give me the most opportunity to live the life I really want to live and really step up to the challenges that kind of come in front of me there. So don't neglect taking care of your body and really analyze, like, what do you need to do? What's best for you? Are you noticing some pains? Are you noticing that you're kind of going the wrong way? Like, address that and constantly just aim to be in a better spot. And it goes past training even just taking care of yourself. Like, even after the other day it got so crazy, so I wasn't able to shower on my normal schedule where I usually shower once or twice a day because we can shower after the gym. But I think it was like a day and a half or 2 days. I'm like, oh, I just miss even the concept of like showering and like using conditioner, putting some gel in your hair, like feeling good. But it really comes full circle. So the more you can take care of yourself in that regard and do those other things too, like even the exposure to sunlight has been phenomenal. It's amazing to see even my energy, my attitude improve as a result of that. But the more you can analyze, hey, am I taking care of me? Am I really doing what I need to do there? You're going to put yourself in a good spot for that.
Honestly, that's great. And I find that even the more that people take care of themselves, just the easier it is to take care of others. And it's such a principle, in my opinion, that's overlooked because you just want to take care of everyone else. You want to run around. You want to take care of business and family and friends and all that stuff. But honestly, the more that I spend meditating, doing my walks, doing everything I need to do, I just feel like I'm in so much of a better position to help others as well. But that's going to bring me into my quote here, which is very simple. I think you've probably heard like a different variation of it in the past. I said, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But this one is slightly different here. And I said, if what you're doing is working, keep doing it. If it's not, then change it. And I just think that's such an easy principle for overall success. Like, if you're showing up to the gym, if your nutrition's great, if you're losing weight, then honestly keep going. Like, keep showing up, keep being consistent with it, you're on the right track. But if you keep trying, you keep failing, your weekends are getting out of control, you're traveling and you just can't seem to make it happen, like what are you going to change to make sure that it does happen? And I feel like a lot of people don't realize, they just keep going down that same route and they don't change anything. But at the same time, I feel like some people are also seeing great success and they just feel the need to change something just because maybe they're bored or because they just want to do something different. So that's it. I'm going to repeat this quote here. If what you're doing is working, keep doing it. If it's not, then change it. Plain and simple. Hopefully that helps.
Incredibly well said. And it's so easy to say, oh, I'm just going to keep doing this. It's got to fix it. But we said it before, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And you do need to analyze if the way you're eating isn't working. You need to address that. You need to improve it. Like hope is not a strategy. If you're the way you're training, you're not seeing more muscle development, you're not seeing your strength increase, that is something that needs to be addressed. And it's really easy to kind of just fall into those habits and say, oh no, it's got to work, or I'm doing the right thing. But doing the thing with intention is just so important as well. I had mentioned even how my one friend had said, like, whenever he does something, he wants to do it to the best of his ability this year. And I think that's a big component of it too. You can go through the motions and do the right things and eat healthy food, track your food, go to the gym, get sleep. But if you're not doing these things intentionally and with focus, you're not going to see the results you want. And you might say, okay, but you're doing everything. How does that work? But you could very well track your food, but do it only somewhat, only maybe track 20% of your food. So that is like essentially pointless because you're not actually really getting anywhere. You could eat healthy, but then you could also undo all of that by just really slamming unnecessary food late at night and just really getting too heavy into snacking. You go to the gym 5 days a week, be there consistently, but you could be on your phone the whole time. You go to the sauna, you could do 2 sets, you could do all your sets at like a 3 out of 10 intensity. And that's where you got to really analyze like the depth of the actions you're doing and really instead of going wide and just checkboxing everything, really just say, am I doing these things with that intention, with that mindset that I am going to push forward, I am going to see more result, that it is going to propel me more to where I need to be. So that is something I've been exploring as well. And I mentioned before, even I guess transitioning a little bit into where we're at in our personal journeys, the concept of like, how am I eating? Am I taking care of my sleep? Am I really doing the best I can with tracking my weights? Am I doing the uncomfortable thing and analyzing what the holes are in my game? What are the gaps I need to fill? And these personal reflections can be so powerful in that regard. So that's kind of what I've been fixated at. But while I'm down here, I'm just really excited to eat really well, train super hard, maintain those great habits, have the advantage of the sun, get a lot of movement in, also have a lot of fun. We've been playing a lot of pickleball. That's been a pretty crazy, fun new thing to try. Don't knock it till you try it. I know a lot of people are like, that's for old people, but it's pretty tough. And we've been humbled by some old people. It's crazy to see how good different people can be. And I just think any component to be active and to get out there is absolutely fantastic and what it's all about. We've been playing a lot of volleyball, going on a lot of walks. Like, it's been great. Having a pool too will be absolutely awesome. We ordered like a cold tub, which will be really cool. So probably gonna have to fill that up with ice each and every time, but it'll be a great opportunity just to really enjoy personal development and really lean into that. So that's really the main objective right now. We're at a gym we really like, Shoutout Powerhouse. It's a fantastic gym, great atmosphere, and just really excited to train heavy and hard. So that's where I'm at. What about you, Kyle?
Honestly, every time I get into a different gym environment and a different situation, it just reminds me how important having a great environment is. And once again, I know there are situations where it just makes sense to be at home, where, sometimes going to work and working out there might be the best possible option. But man, if you do get an opportunity to try something different, to maybe drive an extra few minutes or whatever the situation is, like, it's honestly so crazy. Just, I don't even want to leave. Like, on our first day there, like, we finished our workout, like, let's say 80, 90 minutes. And I was just like, man, I want to be here for another hour. And it's like those moments, like, people think I love training and it's like everything I look forward to. And the truth is, it's really not. I just know that it's important. I know I like challenging myself. I like pushing myself. But when you can find those ways, such as like challenges with other people, a great gym environment, working out with friends, like, these are the easiest hacks to make sure that you stay on track during those tougher times. And I think they're so overlooked because a lot of times people are on their fitness journey. They don't have the accountability. They don't have the good gym environment. They don't really have that deeper why. And it's kind of like, they're wondering why they're struggling. Well, there's a lot of things we can implement. And for us, even just, I don't even like when we have to take a rest day, I'm going to hate it, So it's that finding those things. It's not going to the craziest, nicest gym. I'm not saying you have to do that, but it is if you're struggling at home and you're like, hey, I want to make this change, it is definitely something that can help you out for sure.
Yeah, and you got to ask yourself, are you in those right environments? Because I've been at gyms, I just have not liked it. And it's one of those things where, like Kyle said, it is worth driving a little bit further, find a creative solution, or investing in a home gym, whatever really works for you. Like, knowing your strategy that's going to put you in the best situation possible is so key. Even for us, like, we'll often work out of coffee shops, and those environments can matter so much. And when we're in the wrong one, it just becomes very demotivating, and it's worth it sometimes to have a little bit more intention and really find what works for you. And it's great to feed off of like other people's energy, like being around people, especially this gym we're in, everyone's in really good shape, really crushing it, really intentional, really focused. So naturally you're kind of like, you have this attitude like you're an underdog, like you gotta get after it, and it just motivates you to do more. Whereas it can be easier to be complacent when you see 9 out of 10 people not working very hard, spending most time in the sauna, socializing, whatever it may be, because you're kind of like, well, everyone else is doing it. So I've even been saying a quote too I like, is to be uncommon among uncommon men. So that attitude of saying, how can I do what I know is best, and not really just focus on what everyone else is doing. And that's one thing I've been mindful too, is like, what's the best of the ability for me? What's my full potential? Never mind what other people are doing, just because other people are doing something that's easier, doing something that's more realistic to them. Like, what's realistic to me? What am I capable of? And I think as you explore that, you realize how capable you are, and how you may have even hindered some progress by lacking some of that self-belief. So that's something I've really enjoyed. That's one thing that has me excited and intrigued. I know Kyle has some great notes to jump into here as well.
Yeah, one thing that I think about quite often, and I try to write down as well, I feel like it comes through a lot when I listen to these motivational videos. It's the concept of like living your life to the fullest. And I like that Josh was talking about just like the stuff that we've been doing lately, because I've really been trying to think that. I'm just like, every day is a new opportunity. Every day can be exciting if you make it. And I'm not saying to go out, and you don't have to be spending money and going out and doing these crazy things, like, but there's so many amazing, great things that you can do each day that even can be free. Like, sports for us, like I bought a volleyball last year for $30 and we've been playing for hours. Those pickleball things we order off Amazon, the rackets, for quite cheap, and it's just been really exciting. But the thing that I was thinking about, and that I have in my notes here, is if you knew you'd only have one more day left, what would it be like? And it just gets me thinking, like, I'm not saying to, once again, go out and do these crazy things and whatnot, but more so the principle of just like doing things that you want to do and just like bringing excitement into your life. And I really think about that quite often. So of course we've been getting great work in. Everything's been going super well lately. Just, content creation, clients have been crushing it, so much more great stuff. But, when it comes to the day-to-day stuff, I'm just like, let's do some fun things. Like, let's bring the energy. And it's kind of crazy when I think of like, sometimes I'll be so low energy and just be chilling. And then like the second I do something like exciting that like brightens me up, like we go do some sort of sporting thing. And we've been going to a couple different sporting events, which I'm very fortunate for as well. Like, the first, we brought one of our friends to his first NFL football game, which is like Miami Dolphins versus Buffalo Bills. And it was just like so exciting to be able to do stuff like that. I'm like, this is a memory that you'll have forever. So concept is just do some fun things, like get out there, try some different things, whether it's free, paid. I guarantee you, like, those experiences are so worth it. And when I think of like the end of life, essentially, which I know is pretty deep, I'm just like, man, I just want to live it up and experience it to the fullest. So that's what has me passionate right now as well.
Yeah, one of my goals, even though I look at every day, is that every day is an adventure. So that concept too, I've talked a lot recently about having no bad reps and really having quality reps in the gym, but even aiming for no bad days. Like, even on the most mundane, boring day where maybe you have a lot of work to do, you're cleaning, you're doing all these things, like, there's a lot of ways to still make that day really eventful and special. Like perhaps listening to a really interesting YouTube video or a podcast while you clean, still making time to go out on a walk and really just taking some fresh air. Like, every day has a capacity to be a really good day, and even it doesn't always have to be these big crazy things, even though those things are amazing. And even another goal I had is to really have a lot to look forward to all the time. Like, knowing we had this NFL game, we're actually going to an NBA game tonight. Everything's a lot cheaper in Florida than it is in Toronto. There's a big sport tax. Like, every event is just like $1 million more. So really just soaking in the opportunity to go to some great events with some really good seats and not be like so high up that you need binoculars. So that's something we've really been enjoying. But also, like I said, just really learning to appreciate just going out. And even one thing I was reading about was the concept of being present, being aware, and really enjoying different atmospheres and settings. And they said a great exercise to walk around in unfamiliar areas and really just take in what's going on. And that's something I love doing too, being in a new area right now, walking around, seeing new plants, seeing new animals, seeing new shops, seeing different things, and really just even enjoying that. Like when you bring that position of gratitude and excitement towards each and every day, of course some days will be more exciting, but you also appreciate every day, because you don't want to just be going through the motions of life, working Monday to Friday to live for the weekend, to rinse and do it again. Like the more you can make every day special, even the gym to me, like I really enjoy that time. I enjoy getting and eating a great lunch. Like make the most of these little things, because they're a big part of your life, and just something we wanted to add there. But we're gonna go ahead and jump into our client shout out, which is me. And I'm not doing this because of vanity. I'm doing this because the last year when we came down to Florida, we did a 60-day challenge with our coaching clients. And in this photo of me, you can see where I was at. Of course, I was still training. Of course, I was still in a good spot, but you can see how much further I got in those 60 days. And the way I did that was through a body recomp, what we talked about at the start, which is losing fat, gaining muscle, and really just building a better physique. And what's amazing is I've really continued to build off that all the way till right now. I've had a really good year of training, but I want to do that just again. So now this is good motivation for me to say, okay, let's see how much of an impact I can make over the next 60 days. And I like this image because I'm not a huge believer in like crazy fast transformations. Great transformations take time, and you can do amazing things, especially if you're untrained or less trained, in a very short time, as you've seen us do with our clients. And that's something we're really proud of, is being able to really accelerate that 5 to 10 times of the normal pace. But even for me, like it shows you that if you're intentional for 60 days, how far you can actually get. But it really does require you to lock in and to really pay mind and attention to good nutrition, good training, good recovery, and really just giving it your all. And I think this photo is a great testament to it. And I think it's also really nice for me and Kyle to show, hey, we're out here, we're getting after it, we're getting it done, we're grinding just like everyone else out there. Like I would never tell someone what to do, how to get in shape and be out of shape myself. And it's something I'm constantly trying to improve and do better, because as I do it better, I can give everyone better tips here. I can help my clients more, and I just think it's a great way to go about it. So be on the lookout for some new transformations from me and Kyle, but I'm gonna go ahead and share that there so you can see all of these transformations as well as other incredible posts. We actually had a really fun post just yesterday that I know is really controversial, which is, do you count the first rep when you're lifting up the weights? So, and pretend you're on an incline bench, you kick up those weights, you push them up. Do you count that as a rep or not? Go watch the video, comment down below. I personally do, I'm just gonna say it. As long as it's pretty good quality. Some people throw them up one at a time, they'll lift their butt off, but for me, I actually press them up, so that's why I count it. But fun stuff like that. And then of course, a lot of extra value. We go through our day, we show a lot of what we eat, we show how we train. So there's a lot of great extra content, especially if you're only listening on audio here. It'll put a really good visual to our podcast and just kind of our general mission to become fit, healthy, happy, and to help everyone else be fit, healthy, happy as well. So our Instagram is @ColossusFit, COLOSSUSFIT. But this is Motivation Monday, formerly Mailbox Monday. So we're gonna jump into our mailbag and see what the postman delivered today in terms of your questions about fitness, health, and happiness. And Kyle's really fired up about these because we actually got these from an Instagram Q&A, going back to Instagram. So these are really fresh and exciting. First question we have is from Erika. How many days a week should you be strength training to lose fat and gain muscle versus just doing cardio? And that's from Erika.
Yeah, so this is a really good question. I appreciate every single one of these great questions. We were kind of a little bit low on them, and you guys delivered. So this episode is brought to you by our amazing supporters. I was going to say followers, but I don't even look at any of you as an actual follower. I look at you as supporters, family, friends, like all that great stuff. And we love chatting with you guys in the DM. So just before I get into it, like when you follow us, it's very likely we'll reach out to you. We'll find ways to support you. We want to help you. And we'll always take care of you. So that's one thing. So thank you for supporting us as always. But jumping into this question, so body recomps, I always say, are likely pretty much the hardest thing to do. The main reason is because, especially when you're doing it by yourself, you're just not really sure what to do. And a lot of times people will go into it and they'll change calories very drastically. And then if one day they see that they've gone up in weight, they'll decrease it. But then when they're going down, then they'll increase it. Like, you do a lot of random stuff and it's very hard to navigate. And that's why, before I answer this, like, make sure to send us a message, Body Recomp. We will take care of you. But of course, I do want to give you some tangible tips so that way you can apply it. So strength training and calories will be the greatest and most important thing to help you out. So to answer this question, there's no right way in terms of like how many workouts you should do, but I definitely highly recommend at least 4 to 5 solid strength training workouts. And to do a body recomp where you're building muscle and losing fat, you really need to make sure that you're doing high quality reps, high quality workouts, you're hitting the compounds, you're pushing not till failure, but like a couple reps left in the tank, and you're not just kind of doing like 20 plus reps and just like going through the motions. Like there's a very big difference between someone who's pushing themselves and doing like some heavy hip thrusts, some really good deadlifts, like squats, like all this stuff, and then someone who's just doing a couple movements here and there, like really kind of poorly. So strength training and nutrition is going to be super important. And cardio, you can honestly 100% build muscle and lose fat without doing too much cardiovascular exercise. But the main thing is that obviously it's really good for your heart. It's really good just for overall, like, you know, not getting winded and just like being in really good shape. But you can absolutely be in the right spot with the total calorie intake and how much you burn versus how much you essentially eat by not doing tons of cardio. So I would definitely put that lower down on the, I guess you could say, pyramid of importance. So nutrition is going to be important for a body recomp. Strength training is going to be super important as well. And then cardio will be a little bit down below, but it definitely makes sure it does help you burn more calories as well. And it definitely does have some importance. So it's hard to say exactly that, but I will say most successful people doing something like this will be 4 to 5 days strength training and then just a couple sessions of cardio. And that could honestly be walking, that could be sports, but that's kind of the long answer there. And hopefully that helps you in some way or another, Erika.
Yeah, body recomps, a lot of people say, oh, it's impossible to lose fat and gain muscle, but I can promise you it's very possible. And if you're someone who hasn't really locked in, you'd be amazed at how much you can do. Obviously, like the one hesitation is it's hard to take someone who hasn't ever trained super hard and hasn't ate super well, and then for them just to flick a switch and be really consistent with that, because you need to be operating at a pretty high level consistently. And obviously there's ways to make that easier, as I said, like being in good environments, having good resources, having good tools, having good understanding. Like these are the keys that do make it a lot more efficient. Like I like analogies. So even for me, like with math, I remember when someone would walk me through something, like a teacher or tutor, it'd be very easy. It'd just be like, no problem. But the second you get behind, like self-teaching it is so hard to grasp those concepts and to all of a sudden just be really consistent with doing that hard work. But once you get to that point where you have that comfortability and you know you're in a good spot of what you're doing and you're able to maintain that higher standard, you get over those growing pains of pushing yourself to do more, it doesn't become too bad. So that's the big thing too, is like let yourself be a little uncomfortable and let yourself adapt up to that, especially if you're someone who didn't train hard and you start training hard. You're gonna be a little tired, you're gonna be a little sore, but your body is really adaptable and it will get better, because if you wanna lose fat, well, you gotta put on muscle, you gotta train hard, you gotta train insane or remain the same, as they say. And that's something I always try to really just focus on. And then of course with body recomps, nutrition is everything, because you wanna be eating really well to make sure you're recovering, to make sure you're supplying your muscles for growth, and also to make sure you're losing fat. So that's a high protein diet that's really aiming about 1 gram per body weight, tracking your food, being consistent with your eating good foods that are going to help you feel a good level of satiety and satisfaction. So once again, that you can actually be losing fat and gaining muscle and training hard, but you can't do one without the other. A lot of people just think they can train super hard and they're going to look peeled and gain a ton of muscle, and that's unfortunately not the case. If you train really hard and just eat more, oftentimes people, because they train so hard, they're more hungry and they eat more, they put on a lot of muscle, but they unfortunately do put on a lot of fat, which will hide that muscle, and it can be very discouraging because it can feel like you're just doing something wrong. But that is where nutrition is really important. You do need to learn those foundations of how protein operates, how carbs operate in your system, your total calories, what fiber does, and then even past that, like with body recomps, you can do a lot of advanced strategies like reverse diets, different things like that, carb refeeds. Like there are tools you can use that sound super sexy, but most people wouldn't need that. What they would need is just to hunker down and do the basics better. And that's what we're really big on, is doing them better, doing them consistently. Like that's what produces an incredible transformation. Like in that 60 days, there isn't just one day I trained for like 6 hours, trained consistently 5 days a week. I ate really well, I really had balance, I made sure I was sleeping right, I was getting lots of sun, I was just like growing my mind, doing a lot of self-research. Like I just kept looking for different ways to improve, and then visually you could see the result of that. So that's how I would answer that one. And once again, like this is something we're really passionate about. And even for us, like we had a podcast feedback form and someone had said they don't like that we mention our coaching and say all these tips for fitness, health, and happiness, but at the same time we'll say, oh, you can't do it yourself. Like I said, you can absolutely do it yourself. 110% you can do it yourself. The reality is a lot of people just got to ask, will they? And like to that point of like, I remember as a kid, I like that math example. I'd always say, I'm going to figure this out. I'd sit down. It would just look like it was a different language to me. And I'd be so lost, so discouraged. And I just keep saying, I'll do it later. And I'd fall further and further and further behind. And with fitness, I see such a parallel there. And for a lot of people, they can flip that switch and they can start locking in their nutrition. They can really study and learn training and really get that all out. But for me, it's just such a no-brainer because I know I can help people with that so quick. Like it's my specialty. Having that teacher, having someone to walk you through that, to give you that care is just so important and so helpful. And I've done it myself. I've done it for thousands of people. And you got to ask yourself, if you're not seeing those results, there's probably a reason you're not. And you got to get over that ego of saying like, I need to do it myself. I love doing things myself too, but more and more, I think as I've gotten older, I've learned like, I just love learning from the best and getting help and really learning to do things right and the different amazing things that come alongside that, because you think you know something and you realize, wow, I've really just been kind of dragging my own feet as a result of this. So just wanted to say that as well. And that's something we're really, really big on. And once again, if you want to do that recomp, you got to start training hard. You got to have a balanced, periodized routine. And once again, we have episodes on all this. You could break this down and you could do that study and you could go through the episodes, look at the show notes, do all these things. And I really hope you do, because I just want everyone to see results. But once again, if you want to save all that extra legwork, we would love just to do it for you, because that is what we love. That's our passion. That's what we do for a living. And you can message us on Instagram with the keyword body recomp.
Yeah. And the last thing I will say on that topic is that I do find a lot of people who reach out to us for this specific goal of just like, I'd say we get probably quite a few, I don't even know the exact amount, messages saying these are most people's goals: losing body fat, building muscle. And I find that when we kind of work through a situation, most people will be in that component where they're doing too much cardio and too little strength training. So that's why I'm really glad Erika asked this question, because I really wanted to prioritize strength training and not say that cardio is bad for you at all. And I think it is definitely great, but some people will be like, hey, I'm running, I'm doing 40 miles a week, I'm preparing for a half marathon, I'm doing all this stuff, I do the Stairmaster an hour a day, and the proportions just aren't in line with what's going to help you out, because you're burning so many calories. Essentially, at a certain point, you start to definitely cut into your muscle mass, and it's kind of counterintuitive, because a lot of times people are thinking, when I'm trying to tone up, so essentially toning up is a fancy word for just, starting to look better essentially while building a little bit of muscle and losing fat. That's like the easiest way to put it. And a lot of people have this goal of toning up, tightening up, doing all this stuff, but they're doing so much more cardio, doing so much less strength training. And it's no wonder like you start to lose body fat and you lose a lot of muscle. And yes, you lose a lot of weight, but then you're like, why don't I look the way that I want to? That's why a lot of these things have to be in place: the proper strength training program, the right amount of cardio where it's not too much, it's not too little, and then the overall calorie intake and whatnot as well. So hopefully that helps. That was a great question, and we popped off on that one. So yeah, hopefully it helped.
Yeah, you gotta focus your efforts. If you're focusing on the wrong things, you're just gonna hinder yourself and waste energy. And that's where that efficiency is so important. And even for me, like if you want to operate at a really high level, you need to be very efficient and precise in what you choose to pursue. If I chose to do 2 hours of cardio a day, I would not have energy for that. Of course, I could eat it back. My training would be compromised. I'd actually have less muscle. So you need to make sure your energy and your actions match with what you actually want your goal to net be. And that's where a lot of the time people will have great intentions and they'll say, I really want to lose this fat, so I'm doing 30 minutes of cardio before, I'm lifting a little less, I'm doing more 30 minutes of cardio. But all you're doing is burning calories. And if you're eating back those calories, you don't have a good balance, you're not going to see that change. Just the same if you're doing that and you're eating really well, if you're not training enough, you're not going to have enough of that compositional change to actually put on muscle. So that's where like people can work so hard, but just not apply themselves right and really limit themselves in that capacity. And once again, I really do want to reiterate, we have amazing resources on all of these things. If you search Fit, Healthy, Happy Body RECOMP, we have a more in-depth episode on it. If you want to really get into training and programming, we have episodes on that. If you want to get more into nutrition, just the same. Protein, all these great things. Like, go back, listen to these content, especially when me and Kyle talk with more precision on each individual resource and tip. You'll be able to get more in it. And you might say, oh, I know training super well, but my nutrition sucks. Listen to more nutrition episodes. If your nutrition's incredible, but you don't know as much about the gym, check that out. And I think that's a great segue into our next question, which is, how do you get over gym anxiety? So a quote I heard recently that I loved is, don't be anxious, be prepared, something along those lines. And it's so easy to be anxious towards things and to dread them and to be miserable about it. And if the gym is one of those things for you, first be prepared. Like, know you're able to get in that gym, have a membership, like the atmosphere, be comfortable with that, have a program to some degree that you know you're going to follow through. If there's things you don't know in the program, do that legwork to watch YouTube videos on how to do it. Google Images is another great way to do it, because you can see before and afters, and really just have different mechanisms. So what are you going to wear? How long are you going to be there? These different things will make the task of doing it a lot better. And then most importantly, as basic as it sounds, you just got to do it. You got to get in there. It might be uncomfortable. It might be foreign. There might be people that are different than you're used to seeing. But before you know it, just like anything else, you're there enough. It becomes a habit. It becomes comfortable. And it does take a little bit of time to get there. But even give yourself 2 weeks and you'll be amazed at how much that anxiety dissipates. We really do just tend to build things up in our minds a lot worse than they actually are. And even for me, I've really just been focused on this quote, like, don't be anxious, be prepared, because it's just so easy to have that anxiety and to think, I need to do this. But sometimes you're like, okay, let me get organized, let me get things squared away. It's amazing how far you can remove that. So that's always my top tip to people, but I'm curious what Kyle has.
Man, that was a great quote. I've actually never heard that one. And as Josh was speaking, I just started to think all the times where I kind of felt a little anxious about random things. And I was just thinking all of those times were actually just from not being prepared with something. And then the second that I do have something laid out in front of me, such as what I'm going to do, how I'm going to approach it, I feel like it just kind of goes away. And that's just me. I usually don't overthink many things, but I know a lot of times people do struggle with that. And obviously, the mind is very, very strong. But I would say working off of what Josh said, a few things that I'm very big on, especially because we do have clients who we've had to work through different situations and whatnot. And of course, kind of working off of what I said before, it is challenging because we do want you to be in the greatest gym environment, but I know sometimes it can be that challenge where you're I'm more comfortable at home. This is what I know. No one's looking at me. But I think my biggest takeaway just for everybody is that everyone is honestly there for themselves. Everyone is there to improve themselves. It's a great atmosphere. Very likely you will, and especially right now, a lot of you are new to getting into the gym. You're excited. You have some great goals. You're just getting into it. And I think that's where some people struggle, especially if you're new right now, is you're kind of tending to overthink things. But just know that everyone is amazing. They're all there for the same reason. That's the biggest thing. And most people, when they are looking around and kind of whatever it is, they're just trying to see what's going on. That's exactly how I am. I see, oh man, that person's crushing it, or that's a new exercise I've never tried, or whatever it is. It's just an amazing environment. And I highly recommend, and just really knowing that each person is usually thinking about themselves and how they look. Whenever I heard that, it was a couple years ago, I was like, man, that is so true. I thought this person was looking at me. They're just wondering how they think that they're being perceived in the gym. And I thought that was very important, and hopefully that helps.
Every pro is once a beginner. Remember that. It takes time, and you got to go through those growing pains. And even having a toddler, it's amazing seeing how he tried to learn to crawl, he couldn't do that, and then he starts to learn to walk, he falls, stumbles, and then you start seeing them run, but there's still not coordination to jump, and it just takes time. And even understanding it's part of the process of you getting to where you want to go. I find even for me, loving that process and that journey is the best part of it, especially too for a lot of people. I know they'll say, I'm happy once I have a six pack, or once I'm this weight, or X, Y, Z. And these goals will always change. I promise you that. Instead, enjoy the fact that you're actually doing something about it, that you're pushing forward, that you're wanting to see this change, and that you're overcoming that growth and that fear of even getting in the gym. So once again, if you're making any progress, any stride forward, pat yourself on the back, because that's what it's all about. And as long as we're growing, you know you have infinite potential, and you can have the power of compounding and all these other incredible things we talk about. All right, our last question. What do we got, Kyle?
So we have this from Alyssa, and she pretty much asked how to navigate being in a calorie deficit and hitting her macro goals without getting burnt out, especially being a picky eater. So jumping into this, I guess it's kind of interesting because I'm kind of curious like what a picky eater is to this, individual, Alyssa. I'd consider, it's kind of funny. We have like an ongoing joke. There's some things that I'm just so picky with, like specific vegetables, onions, pickles, like there's just a bunch of random things. But I guess for some people, it may just be like, some people may not like vegetables at all. There's some people who may hate chicken. Like, I know it's very different. So this is where the question is a little bit interesting, but I wanted to include this question because I feel like it can be very helpful for those of you who may be tired of eating the same stuff, who may just feel sometimes a potential burnout, or you want to avoid that burnout of eating healthy foods and whatnot. And my biggest tip, I have two of them, but the first one is just having that rotation that allows you to have a little bit of a different situation and variety. So obviously, for those of you who may get sick of broccoli after having broccoli, chicken, and rice, every single week, you don't have to have that every single time. Like, I think it's important to have your roster of, 5 to 10 different veggies, a bunch of different carb sources, a bunch of different high protein sources like lean meat, like all these different things. Start to incorporate that. And when you rotate it around, if you are someone that's picky or you get tired easily, then that's great. You're like, hey, I'm over this. That's fine. I'm going to jump into the next thing. And the number two thing, and not as many people will love hearing this, is just being okay with just like doing the stuff that is good for you. And I'm working off of something that Josh actually said. He shared it with a friend who he's trying to encourage, especially with like the healthier breakfast, the healthier options. He was like, do you think I love having Greek yogurt every single day? It's like, it's not absolutely not. Like, it's not something I'm exactly waking up, I'm so excited for, but I know it's good for me. I know it fills me up. I know it provides the nutrients for me, and I know it's just great. So like, he just eats it and doesn't even think about it. It's like, that's it. It's great for me. It's a great start to the day. It's not as exciting as going out to a brunch and doing all these fun little breakfast variations, but it's what does the job. And that's where I think some people struggle, is they always need something super new and exciting. And when you get used to having some of the same stuff over and over, and you can just embrace that, it's a whole different ball game, because you just show up based off of macros, hit your protein goals, and you'll see some great results from that.
Yeah, and this is where I really recommend the 80-20 rule. Have 80% really good, healthy foods, and do have some fun things in that 20%, especially if you're picky. Regardless of being picky, there's something everyone really, really enjoys. If you're like super picky, where it's like meat, potatoes, and like that's what you like, you can always get a more exotic version of that. And even for me, like chicken and rice at home isn't that exciting, but I love going to like a Chipotle or something. So you can always find different ways to make it a little bit more manageable for you. Really working off of staple meals and offering some variety in there is great as well. And really know yourself. Like, I'm happy to eat the same breakfast every day. I could eat the same lunch every day. I do like a little more variety in my dinner. Some people never want to eat the same thing. We'll take more preparation, cooking, having a bigger like arsenal of different places you can eat out or cook at home, or switching your grocery variety, doing these different things to keep it fresh for you, because you definitely don't want to burn out on your eating, and you want to make sure you're eating really well. And you can definitely eat super healthy at a crazy variety. It just takes, once again, more of that intention and effort. And that's where you just got to get ahead with that. And instead of being anxious about it, you got to be prepared. You got to look at that in advance. And it starts by knowing what you're cooking, getting those groceries, all of that good stuff. So that was a great question, a great answer. And we want to thank you for tuning in today. Make sure to smash a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube or any of the other video sources. If you're listening on audio, always means a lot if you can leave a review and really just help us out there. And once again, too, let us know if you like the new podcast baits, what your thoughts are there. Comment the color of my dog's eyes, and we'll pick one person to get something fun there, or a shout out perhaps next week, which will be absolutely great. So I'm curious to see who we get. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Once again, keep pushing forward, become fitter, healthier, happier, one step at a time. And I think this was a great step by tuning in today. So thanks, and peace out.